Only 14 months into her first term, now this Democratic firebrand is staring down a crisis that could help propel her all the way to the vice presidency, or drive an even deeper wedge into her already divided state.
Each of these executive orders these are powers I never imagined I'd have to use as governor, and yet we've had to execute some really tough decisions. I'm a Democrat, and I'm proud to be a Democrat, but I am the governor of Michigan. Almost 10 million people in this state, whether they voted for me or not, their lives matter to me.
Tough decisions, aggressive action. Why lead in that way to have such a muscular response when other governors have made different decisions?
Well, Michigan has the 10th largest population. We currently still have the 3rd largest number of deaths from COVID-19. Our hospitals were at capacity just days into it. The trajectory we were on says that we would have had about 200,000 people need to be hospitalized right now, where now it's about 4,000. And so these actions have worked.
What do you make of the Trump administration's response to this pandemic?
I said early on that I think that we should have a national strategy. I know that that was something that got the attention of my critics and that was something that they latched onto. But I didn't say something that other governors haven't said too.
Her criticism has been returned by the president and by some of her own constituents.
Back over there!
Earlier this month, Operation Gridlock, a protest that was in part organized by the Michigan Conservative Coalition, drew thousands to the Capitol building, residents defying the state's stay-at-home order.
No, it's time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done. It's time to open up.
You know, the call to action was to stay in their cars. If they had done that, it wouldn't have been so concerning. But they congregated without masks. People were flying Confederate flags, which is not something you see very often at the Michigan Capitol. People were, anti-choice protesters were out there, and open carry advocates were out there. This was more of a political rally than it was a statement of the stay-home order.
I was there for 6.5 hours. It wasn't a Trump rally, as she liked to say.
Rich Kowalski drove nearly 100 miles to join the demonstration, a construction contractor who recently had to lay off a quarter of his employees.
I've never protested anything in my life, but I feel that I was, and I am, being punished to a certain extent, and I have no control over that. I can't go to work, I can't practice my trade, I can't make any money to support my family.
He says he's applied for PPP and for loans, but is yet to get an answer, and for the first time filed for unemployment.
This hurts me and pained me to apply for unemployment. They approved me for $160. What could I do with $160? I mean, I can't even barely pay my phone bill with that. I could lose everything.
He stopped taking a salary to help keep his business afloat. He understands the need to stop this deadly virus, but not how the directive was implemented.
People, if they're told what to do and they're told how serious it is, I believe they would follow the guidelines. But a blanket closure, it's going to hurt our economy.
His thoughts on the governor's policies are echoed in pockets across the state, all the way in Kalamazoo.
Yeah, I thought they were horrible. I think she's ruining our state. Why do we have to kill the economy to save lives?
Uncle and nephew, both named Fred Fleetstra, run this dairy farm and note that over 70% of Michigan's cases have been concentrated in only 3 counties.
I feel for the Detroit area, I feel for Chicago, the big city area, but if you look at all the concentrations, they're all right around the big city. I think some limitation could be done there, and I think it's very, very wrong for our governor to limit the rest of the state the way it is.
Here in this part of Michigan, farming is all these men have ever known.
My grandpa bought this farm back in 1917. It has been in the family ever since.
All across the country, the dairy business has been in flux. Many of these farmers' products end up as milk in your coffee or as cheese on your pizza. As the food service industry has been shut down, their milk has had no place to go.
To get it bottled is a big issue. When 70% of the milk product that we produce as farmers goes into food service agencies, all of a sudden this processing facility cannot handle the bottling department of it.
With nowhere for the milk to go, farmers across the nation have had to take the devastating step of dumping their dairy. The Vleetstras haven't had to dump yet, but still their profits have been slashed almost in half.
This has had a huge effect on us. If you could somehow just kind of put the cows into an idle mode for a while, that would be great, but it doesn't work that way.
We thank our farmers for being a critical part of our food supply, and yet right now in Kalamazoo we're watching numbers that are concerning, because if we have a growth in Kalamazoo or in a rural part of Michigan, we won't have the kind of hospital systems that can meet a need that a community that is growing out of control. COVID-19 doesn't recognize county line. I'm doing everything I can to do right by the people of Michigan, to save lives from COVID-19, and that's why I've implored everyone to remember, we are not one another's enemies. The enemy is a virus, and it doesn't distinguish by people based on their political parties.